Hello, and welcome to my new channel, which I think I will call Amusing. The whole idea of doing a channel on YouTube in this year, it seems a bit odd because YouTube is moving into a new space where it's trying to be more mature and buttoned up and more appealing to advertisers. Um, and it's also showing its age a little bit like myself. Um, I started making YouTube videos back when YouTube was still a new thing. Never really did anything seriously with it, but I've been dabbling, and this is my latest dabble in this sort of direction. Um, but this is the first time that I'm really trying to put some more philosophical content on and really trying to discuss some things that's going on in the world and musing about it. Um, so the basic premise for this channel, I thought, would be something that addresses some of the pertinent issues of the day, political and social issues and things like that, but without actually addressing them. Um, so instead of going the whole clickbaity route of putting the splashy headline, oh, so and so blasts whatever and does whatever, um, to try and sort of maybe get to the root of the issues that I feel are maybe plaguing is too strong a word, but essentially plaguing our modern society, which I think really are epistemological questions, questions of knowledge and truth and how we know things, how we construct our world around us, um, which I think has been very poorly served by the media in general. Um, so I do believe that there is a bit of a space there to address these issues um, in a way that might be entertaining and appealing and pertinent, um, but without being necessarily clickbaity. So as the channel progresses and if it starts getting a lot of views, I might move more into the clickbait and maybe shave my beard or something. But for the meantime, this is really just me just musing on these sorts of things. And so that's really what the basis of the channel is. Most of the questions that I'll be addressing are things to do with not just science as a sort of an abstract quality or quantity, but more the sort of the underpinning rationale behind science. So how we can use science to come to an understanding of the world. Now I say understanding very carefully, because I don't mean that we use science to discover truths about the world, and that's really the main thing. I think there's been a huge confusion that's grown up that we can use science to come up with to come up with truths about the world. I feel that is just a catastrophic misunderstanding, and I understand why people want to present science in that way, as a counterpoint to religion that is certain. But I feel that construction, that way of understanding science, just replaces religion with another religion. Religion deals with truth. God gives you truth and certainty and knowledge about the world and stuff. Science is not like that, because you're not supposed to test God. God tells you what reality is, and that is the way that it is. And I don't mean to belittle religion, because I feel religion is really important, because having a sense of what reality is, independent of your investigations and questions, theorizing and all that sort of stuff, is actually a very important thing, because it gives you a grounding. It gives you a place from where to jump off. It gives you a solid floor. Um, and for most people, most of the time, most people need that. Science, though, is not that. That's not what science is. Science asks you to test. It asks you to make a theory and to then put that theory against the cold, hard light of reality and test it. And if you're not testing it, you're not doing science. There's no such thing as the truth that science reveals to you, because science doesn't reveal anything to you. In fact, there's no particular reason to think that things should be easy to understand in science. There's no Occam's razor doesn't tell you that the simplest thing is true, or the simplest theory is the one most likely to be true. That's a formulation that a lot of people often use, which is, again, it's not just wrong, it's catastrophically wrong. It completely misses the point. The point of Occam's razor is that reality is just what reality is. The simplest theory that completely describes reality for your purposes is the one that's most likely to be true. So if you have two theories that describe a situation that you want to describe perfectly, and one of them is more complicated than the other, then select the simple one. But if one of the theories is only vaguely or incorrectly describing reality, you shouldn't accept that one just because it's simpler. And often this is such a common misunderstanding, and it leads to some horrible outcomes and results in society. So basically, with these musings, I want to address these basic questions of, well, how do we then construct our reality? If science isn't going to be the thing that gives us truth, and if religion is something that we should treat with at least caution, how can we go about constructing and creating a view of the world that we can work with, that's useful and usable, without having to accept somebody else's construction just at its face value. Very often we do just need to accept somebody else's construction. If you're building a building or something, you have to accept that the engineer who drew up the blueprints knew what he was doing. And there we have certifications, and we have all these sort of things that provide a social framework within which, and one of the most important things about that social framework is that there are consequences. So if you draw up a set of drawings for a building, and it turns out that set of drawings is false and the building falls down, there are consequences for the engineer who drew up those drawings. But it's not the same way for either the priest. If the priest tells you something is wrong, and you end up believing it, and you follow that religious edict, and it turns out to be not the case, well, the priest isn't going to be defrocked because of it. And the same way with the scientist. The scientist's job isn't to tell you the truth about something. So if it turns out that something that the scientist theorized about turned out to not be true, well, that's just part of the scientific process. That's not just expected. It is expected. That's the thing. That's how it works. So you don't want scientists to suffer consequences from being wrong. that's not how it's supposed to work. But because of that, and for that same reason, you don't want to accept things that science tells you as being true, because there's no consequences. It's the same sort of thing. Science is a way of testing the world against testing your theories against the cold, hard light of the world. And it's a way of growing knowledge because of that, because you can make the mistakes, because you can make claims about the world and reality, and then test those claims against unseen things, things which haven't been tested before. That's where science can be useful. So if we are going to be using science as our way of grounding us, we have to be a little bit smarter about using it, about not trying to use it as if it is a religion, and understanding that wherever we do make those kinds of assumptions about reality, and we always do, even in science, that those sort of things are essentially metaphysical assumptions. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine to make metaphysical assumptions about God and universe and reality, because we have to. But if we're going to do science, and if we're going to come up with a good way of understanding the world around us, it requires us to be a little bit more careful and cautious about how we do that. And that's really what this channel is about. Quite a long video just rambling about this sort of thing, but that's the sort of content that I expect to be making. Just ways of just thinking about how we can use science to construct a reasonable way of going about our lives, just in a day-to-day way, using science in a little bit more informed way than just expecting it to replace religion as the basis for our understanding of things. So I'm going to try and make a video maybe once a week or so. Maybe I'll increase that frequency if I see it takes off. If it doesn't, I think I just enjoy just talking about this sort of stuff anyway. So even if it's only just for my own personal entertainment. So we'll see where it goes. And yes, I hope you enjoy.